we actually have to get another movie in, so that's why we've started. Oh, to do the Q&A over the credits. So let's start with some quick questions. First, one thing that I didn't mention before, it might have been a surprise for many horror film fans in this audience to see the Hammer logo before the film. This, in fact, was the first vampire film to be produced by Hammer in over 35 years. The studio that brought us Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing is back and ready for blood. So Matt, obviously, when this project was first announced, there was already the release of the Swedish film, and there's always that remake buzz of people grumbling, oh, why did I have to remake the film? But you have to step back and realize that Let the Right One In was actually based on a Swedish book. So this is just another adaptation, essentially, of a book. No one goes, oh, they're making Romeo and Juliet again, another remake. But it's an adaptation. Can you talk about how you first became involved and what attracted you to the project?
I mean, the thing I saw first was the movie, and what happened was it was almost a year before the movie came out in the United States. I just finished Cloverfield. It was January 2008, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And there's a personal project that I'd written that I really, really wanted to make, which didn't have a big genre sort of aspect to it, so it's kind of a challenging film to make. And I was trying to make it before Cloverfield, and then we actually had a cast, and Naomi Watts was going to be in it, but then schedules kind of didn't work, and she ended up having to drop out, and I ended up going and doing Cloverfield and sort of going on that whole crazy sort of detour, which was amazing, and I loved doing it. And then this time out, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do that movie again, which it's called The Invisible Woman, and she's not actually invisible. But in any case, I was about to do that, and I decided I would try and find a distributor in the United States, and I met with Overture. And they read the script, they loved the script, and they said, you know, this is a beautifully written script, but it's a little challenging right now, because that was the moment when the independent film industry started to contract, and a lot of really great distributors are no longer really with us. I mean, Paramount Vantage and all kinds of distributors. In fact, even Overture, this is now really one of the last films from Overture, and Relativity Media is now taken over, and they'll be doing a lot of films with the people from Overture, but essentially Overture now is gone. And so it was sort of a difficult time, and they said, look, this is too challenging for us, but we loved Cloverfield, we love the writing in this, we'd love to do something with you, and we're pursuing the rights for a remake of a Swedish film. And you should check it out, maybe you'd like to do it. We don't have the rights, but we'd like to show you the film. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do a remake, I'm trying to do, you know, this film of mine, which is very personal. And they said, well, just watch it and see what you think. And I watched the movie, and I was completely blown away. I was like, well, first of all, I didn't know what the movie was about at all. And the thing about it is when it started going into the scenes between Oscar and Ellie in the courtyard, it was so similar to the emotional terrain that actually, weirdly, was the basis for the script that I'm still trying to get made and hope to get made next, or if not next, the one after that. And I was like, oh my God, this is really weird and eerie, like that it has this. But then it was a vampire film, which of course my movie had nothing to do, and I was like, okay, this is amazing. This is brilliant, because it does what my favorite genre films do, which is it takes the metaphor of the genre, it's a vampire film, but it's really talking about the pain of adolescence. And that, you know, Oscar's childhood is really like a horror story. And I was blown away. And they had actually given me the disc, and somebody even had said to me as he was handing it to me, he goes, and maybe you want to age up the kids for an American audience if you're interested. So I called them the next day and I said, look, I have two things to say. Number one is I don't know if you should remake this movie because it is amazing. And number two, I said, I just don't really think if you make the film and you age up the kids, you're destroying the story. So, you know, if you get the rights and you make the movie with someone, the one thing I will say is don't do that. And so they didn't get the rights right away, and they were pursuing it, and actually Hammer Films ended up getting the rights, and then Overture partnered with them. But I ended up, after seeing the movie and being so blown away by it and really affected by it, I really identified to Oscar's childhood. I was bullied, and you know, just the idea of growing up in that time. And so I read the novel, and I was blown away by the novel. I thought it was amazing, and I ended up writing to Lindquist. And I said, you know what, I just want to tell you now, you know, Hammer Films has the film, and I know that you know that we're maybe going to do a remake. and I want to tell you why. And I said, you know, why I'm interested. It's not just that I think that this is a brilliant genre story, which it is, but it just so reminds me of my childhood. And he wrote back to me, and he said, you know, I'm actually excited about it because I really like Cloverfield, and I'd be very interested to see what you do, because Cloverfield was a new spin on kind of an old story, and that's what I tried to do, was let the right one in. And so he said, the thing is though, I'm actually more excited to know that it affected you personally, because it is the story of my childhood in Blackaburg. And I was like, oh, I totally get it. And I just, you know, he talked about the suburbs where he grew up, this place Blackaburg, and it reminded me of you know, when I grew up, that we referred to the suburbs as like Spielbergia, because there was E.T. and all of the movies that sort of took place out of the suburbs. And I just started thinking, you know, there has to be a way to be really true to his tale. And, you know, he did the adaptation, actually, of his book for the Swedish film, and so it's incredibly faithful. So the scenes that you're seeing here that are very, very similar, the reason is because it's very, very similar to the book, and I tried to be very faithful to that stuff because that's the stuff that moved me so, and I really wanted to find a way to take that story and put it into the American landscape that I remembered from growing up at that time. So that's kind of the journey of what it was and what I intended to do.